What's up, everybody? Thank you so much for clicking on this tonight and spending a little bit of time with me here. As always, I do really appreciate the time, the listens, the energy, everything that you all give to More Than a Word, to me as an individual, and I can never really express to you how much it means, but I always need to keep saying thank you, and I promise you I'll continue to try my best to pay back what you've paid forward to me in my life and with this work that I'm trying to do and this learning that I'm just starting to become, and have been for a while, very obsessed with. It's all only possible because you all continuously, first of all, use your voice, share your stories via the podcast, other things, communication with me, one-on-one conversation, but also that you continue to listen, not to me, but to the others that I have on, because they're the ones that are really bringing the message and the cool aspects of life that I want to bring to light. But I know that sometimes, I get a lot of people coming up to me saying, you're the word guy, you like words, that's your thing. And yes, I do like words, but I want to be clear about something about More Than a Word, and that is that More Than a Word is a vehicle. It's not the destination itself. What I mean by that is, yes, I do love words, and I love conversing around individual words, but words are supposed to be this symbolic thing that is seemingly so simple. We all interact with them on our everyday lives, writing, speaking, listening, all these things, but we seldom slow down to actually consider what our individual words mean, and more importantly, why they mean those things to the individuals who ultimately determine the direction of things like their definitional stasis, or how that they're told in stories, or how they're used in sentences, all of these things, right? And so I think by bringing people on who embody certain words in their personal and professional lives, and hearing them talk about this word and how it intertwines with their being, we really start to see that this is so much more than the collection of letters on a page. And my intent with this, my purpose with everything that I'm doing with More Than Words specifically, is to use that as a catalyst and kind of as this symbolic thing to be like, whoa, if this word, this little collection of letters on a page actually is so immense, what else in my life is like that, right? And that's the vulnerability. And that is the word for me. That's most paramount, important, all that stuff in my life, and I have felt is the foundation for maximization, learning, and progressing in a way that we continuously feel better. We do everything every day in a way that makes us happy because it's in line with who we are. Our meaningful action is reflective of our identity, of our self-awareness, which all starts with this vulnerable foundation. So I wanted to take a minute on that word, which I have done so much writing and speaking around because it is the word for me. Like, above all else, vulnerability is the thing that is non-negotiable for me, and that's literally why I'm doing all the work I am. But I have made my life the last couple years asking certain people, what does blank mean to you? What do certain words mean to you that you interact with, that you're obsessed with their concept or their essence or all these things? And vulnerability is that word for me. So I really wanted to be transparent here and kind of do the same thing that I do to other people and really explain what vulnerability means to me. Because we all heard the word, but as someone who works with it closely, I feel as though I've really kind of nurtured this definition, and I've seen it work in myself and in others when acknowledging this is what it is and building kind of it as a framework as I progress through other thoughts and everything in my life. So the way I define it, and you'll notice over here on this thing that has said make positivity louder since I bought it a year and a half ago, now says the questions are the answers, right? And I put this here for a lot of reasons. You'll see some of them coming soon, but I don't want to ruin some surprises. But the way, if you were to ask me, if I was to be a guest on More Than a Word, and you were to say, what does vulnerability mean to you? My answer would be living life with the framework and the mindset that questions are the answers. Arming yourself with the truth that questions in life, that the questions in life are actually the answers that we search for. What I mean by this is we spend so much time every day, right, innovating all this stuff, searching for answers constantly. We need a solution to this problem. We need this, right? And when we turn it inward, which I am really high on, that's what a lot of More Than a Word is about too. We're asking a lot of questions and we're expecting to hear something back. We're asking outward, why is this happening? Why is this happening? And we're looking for this answer. And I believe wholeheartedly, because I've experienced it, that when we slow down and ask the question, let our mind kind of simmer with that question and start to live life in the vein of curiosity, in the name of that question, right? And we turn it inward and explore ourselves through maybe a question that doesn't even seem like it's exactly about us, we start to learn some crazy things. And actually, instead of finding just a straight up answer that might satisfy a certain part of our brain in that moment of time, we're finding new questions that spark our continuous and compounding curiosity, which I think is 1,000 times better. And that's not to say that the answers are at conflict with that, right? That's not to say that we're not finding answers, but it's just that we find them in a better way, I feel, when we lean into the question more so than just looking for the thing that proves us right or that makes the situation feel safe in that moment, if that makes sense. And I'd love to hear some comments and DMs and everything if you guys disagree or if you have any questions about what I mean, because it is kind of a weird concept of the questions being the answers. But I do genuinely believe this. I've done things like fast for Ramadan as a secular individual, and that's one that I use a lot. And people often ask me why I did that, and it's because I have a lot of great Muslim friends that I wanted to kind of understand and empathize farther with what they went through on a yearly basis. And so I did the fasting a couple years back for the first time, and just tried to immerse myself in their process a little more. But a large part of that also was, I want to understand what my body is like without certain basic elements that I take for granted every day. And I said, I don't know. And that is the greatest thing that I know for sure, is that I don't know. And so I leaned into that truth, and I really just wanted to explore that. And through it, I had these experiences that taught me so much, that gave me answers that I would have never found had I not leaned into that question first. That question was the answer for me, right? I was like, how do I solidify certain things of my self-awareness, understanding of myself, my empathy, my perspective, all of these things that go into that little conversation. And I said, I don't know, and I don't know what this is like. And so I leaned into that totally by choice, did not have to do that. And I give my Muslim friends a ton of credit for helping me in that process, because I could not have done that without them as well. But that's just one example of like choosing moments of vulnerability to lean into a question and live my life with the expectation that not knowing is actually what I need in that moment, even though it feels wrong on a surface level, on a hedonic level. I'm trying to dig to a more eudaimonic place in that thinking, a more deeper seated, long-term beneficial thing that sometimes feels wrong. And that leads me to this point of uncertainty, which is a massive part of this. You say vulnerability, if you were to start to play a word association game with vulnerability, you wouldn't get far without hearing uncertainty, or at least I believe that that's a paramount and crucial element to the vulnerability conversation, right? And it's what we're talking about a lot with these questions. Life is perhaps in itself is the most uncertain of things that we'll ever encounter, but then within it, in our micro days, we encounter, thousands of uncertain moments. Every time you get out of bed in the morning, you don't know what's going to happen. You could fall on the floor, and that's coming from a position of privilege that I'm in, right? So I'm thinking this on my level, but then also people are struggling with much more, life or death things than I am, and so I acknowledge that, and I think that is even crazier, right? So uncertainty is around every corner. And the more I'm thinking about this, and I'm having a lot of people talk to me about, I'm scared of this uncertainty, I'm unsure, I'm hesitant to try this because I'm hesitant to lean into this feeling, this question, because I don't know what's going to happen. And my response, first to myself, because I had those internal conversations, I still do, and I probably will continue to, but my reaction to myself is always, exactly you're having those questions. Exactly, you don't know what's going to happen. That's literally the essence of uncertainty, is that you do not know what is going to happen. And so when I started to think about this, it's like, if you're breaking down, let's oversimplify this, but the binary choice to lean in or lean away from uncertainty on an everyday level, let's just say. What it comes down to is this. The uncertain moment is not going to change. It is out of our control 100% of the time. However, leaning in is often in our control in a proactive way versus a reactive way. And my kind of thinking on it and what I've experienced is, when we choose to stay stagnant, right, because we're afraid of leaning in, it's not that one decision or the other is still going to occur, like, because we might just not have the choice anymore. But a lot of times what happens is that the only thing that really joins us in that moment where we decide, I'm just going to stay stagnant because I don't want to lean one way or the other, because I'm afraid of the both uncertain sides, because they are both uncertain often. But what I find happens is the only thing that becomes our friend in that moment is regret. Because after a certain point, we've lost our proactive ability, and when we get to that point, the only thing that can come is regret. I should have made a choice. I should have tried that. I should have done this. I should have talked to that person. I should have given this idea a chance. I should have followed my gut here. And yes, most of the reasons that we don't do those things is because of some form of uncertainty. And on the flip side, I think when we do lean into that uncertainty, when we accept that vulnerability and we accept that questions are the answers, and we really do lean into that, we're joined by things like learning, growth, progression, success, however you define that. And like those come from the leaning in. They're more intentional that way, right? Like when we lean in, we increase our odds. That's kind of how I think about it. And so it's a very seems so simple. But I would argue, and I would say for sure for myself, that there are often times when I'm thinking on something, I'm ideating, and I'm riding that fence of, do I lean in or do I jump off this fence? Do I continue to climb over? Or, I don't know, I'm pretty comfortable right here, and this is scary because I don't know, because I can't see over the edge. And my point is just, yeah, you can't see over the edge, but if you don't look, you're not going to. It comes down to, if you don't try, you will never know. Meaning, if you don't lean into uncertainty, more uncertainty will join you, because you will never know, and then it's regret because you may lose your moment. Because nothing is promised in this moment, in this day, in this week. And I don't know. I just think that is very, very much a common theme in a lot of struggles or even just day-to-day conversations that we have with ourselves. And it all, as I would argue most things in life, comes back to vulnerability. More importantly, questions, because we have this uncertainty, right? And instead of trying to answer them with a sure thing that's in our pocket at this moment, why not acknowledge that the question itself is there to lead us to a truth that perhaps is more beneficial, or perhaps is what we actually want to continue maximizing, right? It's almost like people who eat really healthy, and I've experienced this too ever since I started eating more salads and stuff. People that eat more healthy always said, wow, I never knew how good I would feel until I actually started eating healthy. And it's like the more you eat healthy, the better you feel, but there's no way to understand that until you try it. And if you don't, you can ride that fence, right? And that's just a very basic example, but I just feel like this is on so many levels so important. So this is just kind of a little rant, another pitch for vulnerability in questions, and I'm telling you that from my personal experience, if I would not have leaned in to certain things, and if I still, this is not a set thing, I'm not just there. If I every day decide now, or I start to struggle with, or some days I don't lean into questions, I'm joined by that regret, and I'm not given the ability to to explore in the same way that I could if I accepted this wholeheartedly 100% of the time. And it's not easy, and I'm struggling with it a lot too. And I just believe that the pursuit of that, the transcendence into ourselves, becoming more than what we ever perceived we can be, starts with this. And I would just love, to have you all kind of even show me the way there, because I know that some of you are strong and do things that I can't even imagine doing. And so I'd love to see how you kill this, dominate this question asking exploration, because I'm convinced that you would. Anyway, so I'll get out of your hair now. I appreciate if you watch to the end. Please leave a comment, your thoughts, whatever it may be, because I do really appreciate all of your time, and I hope that you'll continue to tune into these videos, but more importantly to More Than a Word, the podcast, because it's not about what I have to say, it's about what they have to say in response to some of my questions and curiosity. So we'll have a new episode coming soon. I'll have that on all the social, but most importantly, just have a wonderful rest of your day and end to your week here, and I do really appreciate you. Thank you so much.